Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I want to do a video going over some of the things that I would like to see in the next Overwatch 2 beta. I'm sure you've all seen videos from creators where they're going over their reviews of the beta, their thoughts on the beta. And while I thought that generally speaking the beta was a very fun beta, and there were a lot of good things about it, there are definitely some things that I would like to see them change as we go into the second beta. So instead of just breaking down my thoughts on the first beta itself, I figured instead of, we'll do a video going over the things that I would like to see changed or added as we go into the second Overwatch 2 beta. Obviously, we don't know when it's going to happen yet. We have a news in a few weeks, a little bit of a news announcement from the Overwatch team. But for now, we are just going to talk about what I want to see in the second Overwatch 2 beta. So the first thing I want to see added or changed is I want them to fully update all of the models and portraits for Overwatch 2. One of the things that I think really contributed to a lot of the kind of quote, Overwatch 1.5 feelings for the Overwatch 2 beta come down to the game not feeling different enough, right? And one of the things that doesn't feel different is that none of the new models were in the game. Some of the characters had new portraits, some of them had old portraits, some of them had 3D models as their portraits. There was no consistency there, and so it felt very rough. And the first beta had that feeling of, obviously, this is a beta, this is very rough. But none of this stuff was really updated and changed. And I think it doesn't really matter as much in your first kind of test beta where you're saying, models and portraits really are not the most important thing when you're making Overwatch 2. I think what's more important is showing you how the gameplay is and what has changed with the game and how the heroes play and how the game itself plays from the shift to 5v5. But I think there's something to be said about the just feeling of this is just the same game with one fewer tank and, some hero changes when you go in and every character looks the exact same, every model looks the exact same, just in a slightly higher definition look. And so I do think that this would make a big difference in how people interpret and view the beta, because there would be a noticeable feeling of, oh, this is a new game. Like, these heroes look different, these heroes feel different. And I go into the game and I pick a hero and their portrait's different and they have these new voice lines, which you saw in the first beta. And the hero's model looks different. And I know that the idea is that they still want you to be able to carry over all of your old skins and stuff. And that's cool and that's fine. But also give us some fully updated models. Give me some new looks to some of these, heroes that we've been kind of seeing so much about and hearing so much about. I want to see those looks. We know they've been implemented in some capacity behind the scenes. We just haven't seen them worked into the beta like we saw in the first one. So that is one thing I would like to change. It's probably the most minor change I've seen on here, which is why I put it on here first. But that is one of the things I would like to see added to the second beta. Another thing are more new social features and just social features in general. Obviously, there's been all these leaks and rumors about the game adding in a guild system. I think that is the best thing that they can do in terms of kind of adding a good, solid new social feature. And I would love to see that happen. And so I definitely want to see some kind of new social feature to kind of have the game feel better. One of the things that I found when I was playing the game with friends is that it's very bare bones, right? Like, you can add friends to the group, and then you can search for games, but there's the menu of the first beta was so limited. It was literally just play and view heroes, and that was really all there was to it. There wasn't really anything new you could do. There wasn't a ton of social features. You couldn't really pull up your friends list in the same way that you could. You could only just invite your friends to games. You couldn't look at friends' profiles. You couldn't look at your own profiles, stuff like that. So there were all of these social features that just were not implemented into the beta yet, which, some people might say those things are not that important. What's more important is making sure the gameplay works properly. But we've gotten the gameplay now, right? In the first beta, I don't mind the beta being bare bones and having some of these things lacking. But as we're going into more betas, I want a more complete feeling beta. I want a game that feels more complete. Even if, Overwatch 2's multiplayer isn't going to be the thing that you're paying for, that's more reason, in my opinion, to give you back some of these social features as you move into the beta. I don't know if this beta is going to be an open beta with the second beta, or if that's going to be like a third beta thing. We don't know yet. But assuming that we're going to get more and more people in with each beta, you need to, in my opinion, implement more ways to allow players to interact with each other, to, have those moments of, getting to see what other players are playing, to getting to see what other players are doing, getting to see what their friends are doing. They just did not have those features in this first beta, and so I would like to see more of that as we move into the second beta. Next thing I want in the second beta are replays. There were no replays in the second beta. You could only capture a moment if it was the play of the game. You couldn't do any of that. You couldn't capture moments that you had if it wasn't play of the game. So if you had a really cool play and you weren't prepared when it happened, yeah, well, you lost it. And it wouldn't save it unless it was play of the game. And even then, it would only save the play of the game if you captured it while it was actually recording, or while it was actually playing it at the end of a game. It is very, very, very unfortunate to miss some of those moments where you can kind of get these really nice and really cool things that happen, and you could kind of put them on your, you can share them on social media or whatever. You can't really do that in Overwatch 2. Getting clips and getting plays and whatnot was very non-user friendly, unless you were someone who recorded it, while you were playing. And so I would like to see more ability to add some of those replays, including as well giving us the ability to use the Overwatch League viewer again, because we can't in this current or most recent build of the beta. We couldn't actually do that. And so I think that when it comes to creators, it is very difficult to make meaningful kind of creator content when you can't even view replays from Overwatch League matches. You can't, use that information to kind of build upon your own play style. Obviously, you can learn a lot from replays. And I think in a game where there's such a shift, it would be really interesting to be able to watch how the pros are playing at a high level and get to kind of examine certain POVs. It would be good to be able to kind of break down and analyze your own gameplay again. And so I would like to see replays again with the Overwatch 2 beta. It's the type of thing where there's all these features that are obviously in Overwatch 1 that are just not back yet in Overwatch 2, that I hope over time will show up soon. But we just haven't seen them yet. But I really do believe that getting replays in is a huge piece of actually making the game more fun, and also something that is more easy to get into and easy to kind of build upon. I think replays help players get better at the game, whether it be their own replays or getting to view pro VODs, whatever it is. I think you can be a better player when you have replays to go back to, and you can really analyze those things and look for those things. You can kind of say, I'm trying to get better on this hero. Let me watch my gameplay on this hero, and let me compare it to kind of pro gameplay on this hero, and see if there's certain things that I can take away, whether it be positioning, whether it be, obviously mechanics are something that take a long time to improve upon, but maybe it's, something like positioning, or the way you, approach fights and stuff like that, the way you approach the game. You can learn a lot by watching pro players. I do it a lot. I do it, to try to improve my own gameplay, to try to get better at the game. I learn from what I see the pros do. But without access to replays and the replay viewer, you can't do that. So that to me is a huge thing they need to add. I think it has hurt a lot of the content creation. I think a lot of, you can see where Overwatch League creators have kind of struggled a bit. Obviously, if you're someone with enough connections, you can get those, gameplay angles from teams, like we saw Reinforce get recently with the Dallas Fuel. But if you don't have those connections, it's very difficult, and it makes putting out content a little bit harder sometimes. So replays definitely for me a big thing I want in the Overwatch 2 beta when we get the next beta. Next, I want more reworks, more major character balance changes. I don't want any new heroes in the second beta. I think that that's something that I want to wait a little bit longer for. I think I want to see the current roster get a little more fleshed out and made to feel more impactful before they add another new heroine. Sojourn hasn't even been getting much playtime. She hasn't even really been that good. And so I think that that is something that I would like to see them do more. To kind of make her feel more fun, make her feel more interesting. Because the way it is right now, I just think that there's not enough new things that were done to the returning cast of heroes that made some of them interesting. Obviously, support was a huge stinker in that first beta, where there just wasn't a lot of new things with the supports. Supports didn't feel fun, they didn't feel invigorating, they just felt very samey from the first Overwatch game. So I don't want to see some major balance changes and some major reworks to some of the heroes. I don't necessarily need like a Risa level, Doomfist level reworks for a lot of heroes, Bastion level reworks, but I think if there are any other reworks, that they're working on, if it's a support hero or whatever, and if there are major changes they want to make to the balance, I think that would be good. I don't want to see this second beta be focusing as much on kind of changing what we learned in the first beta. I just want to see them tweaking heroes and adjusting heroes to play into the game the way that they can now kind of believably understand the game after having put it in public hands, right? They know what people are tending to do in Overwatch 2 now. They can adjust it more. And I don't want them to make a change like adding a new hero to that yet. But I do want to see them tweak heroes more, make them more fun, make them more exciting. Heroes like Ashe really have not been, didn't get like any changes to like how they play, which is kind of lame. And so I'd like to see some more changes like that, where we get more like things where we get to actually get different hero play styles and different changes so that the game feels more exciting before we eventually, of course, get more new heroes down the road, which is where I think that the majority of those changes will come from in the future, is that we get more new heroes, and so that will kind of forcibly inject a lot of new energy into the game. But I think for this next beta, I don't quite want to go that direction yet. Where I am happy with them adding new things, in particular, are maps. I definitely think they need to add more maps to the game. Right now, the Overwatch 2 map pool is not very good. I won't say it's not very good. It's just very, very small, the amount that they have available, especially on certain game modes, and it made it very, very, very kind of frustrating because you played a lot of the same few maps over and over and over again. On Control, you had Lijiang, Oasis, and Yodelios, right? But there's no Busan, and there's no Nepal. So there's 2 maps missing. On Escort, you have Dorado, you have Route 66, you have Gibraltar, you have Circuit Royale. Cool, but you're missing some of those other Escort maps. You're missing your Rialtos, for example. Then with Hybrid, you have Kings Row and Eichenwald and Midtown, but you're missing some of those other hybrid maps, like you don't have, Numbani, for example, which is a very popular map. You don't have Hollywood. And then you have Push, or you have Colosseo and New Queen Street, and that's it. And so, especially when you're watching the Overwatch League, it feels very noticeable. The maps aren't going to change very much, and there's such an uneven amount for certain. There's 4 Escort maps, but there's 3 Control, 3 Hybrid, and then 2 Push maps. And so I felt like I was getting Escort a lot when I was playing the beta, because that was the one that had the majority of the map pool. And then it's also when you're watching something like the Overwatch League, and every single map has every match is Colosseo or New Queen Street, and sometimes both. The limited amount of kind of maps in the map pool made for some very, very, very kind of repetitive feeling games, and it felt like I was playing a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. And in some cases, right, I like that when you have new maps and you're trying to get people to play those new maps, and you're trying to increase the chances of them playing those new maps. Well, then yeah, I get to play a new Escort map, a new Hybrid map, or new Push maps, which is always cool. But also, there's no new Control maps yet, and I would like to see a new Control map in the game, and I'd like to see some of those other old maps return, because I still want to be able to play Numbani, and I still want to be able to see how the meta of 5v5 is different on a map like Junkertown than it is on a map like Dorado. And I want to see those changes and how those maps feel. And so I definitely want the maps to be increased. I hope we get some new maps as well, like actual new, brand new maps. Yes, we have 4 new maps already, which is quite a bit. But we know there's Rio de Janeiro. That's another map that's in the works. That's another hybrid map that they could maybe have in the next beta. I don't know if there are any Control maps we know about. I don't think there are. any that we know are in the works. We've obviously have some maps like the Gothenburg map that got scrapped because they were going to make it an assault map, and assault's gone now, so that's not a thing anymore. But there's definitely some room for more maps, I think, that would make the game more interesting in the next beta, and would add more kind of fun and flexibility to what you're doing. Because I believe there are about like 11 or 12 maps that aren't in the game, excluding all of the assault maps. Like, there's 11 or 12 maps from the original Overwatch game, from Overwatch 1, that aren't in this game yet, right? Busan and Nepal for the assaults, Havana, Junkertown, Rialto for escorts, and Nubani, Blizzard World, Hollywood for the hybrid maps. That's a lot of maps. That's a very large number of maps to not have in. And when you include some of the presumable new maps, we know about Rio de Janeiro. That's the only one I think we know of for sure is coming into Overwatch 2. Obviously, some other ones have been rumored and teased and whatnot, and some that have been scrapped as a result of the assault game mode getting changed. I would love to see more maps. I just think we need more maps. I think more maps are a big part of what would help the beta feel nicer and more energized, and it would help kind of balance out some of those issues where I think there's too many of certain types of maps and not enough of other types. And maybe even what they do is they just do a completely fresh map pool. Maybe they get rid of some of the maps. Obviously, there's only so many of the like push maps. Maybe you keep all the new maps. So maybe you keep Coliseo and you keep New Queen Street and Circuit Royale Midtown, and you just move all the other old maps from the last beta, and you put in all the new ones. It's a possibility. You'd have fewer maps, which I think is not what I would do, but I definitely want to see some more map variety in the next beta. And the final thing I think they need to add, this is the big one, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be waiting for this one, expecting this one, that is a competitive queue for the beta. I'm not even someone who plays a ton of competitive. I genuinely play more quick play unranked than I do competitive. But the fact of the matter is, the game just doesn't feel the same when you don't have those competitive options. I would love to go into a game on Midtown or on Coliseo or whatever. I guess push doesn't really matter as much. But when you go into a game on Midtown, or you go into a game in these new maps where you don't get to play offense and defense, it feels kind of bad. And it doesn't really feel like you're rewarded for playing the beta much. And it also doesn't feel like you're getting to test out those kind of offensive and defensive strategies and seeing what works or what doesn't work. Quick play is a great way to just play the game if you just don't really care about what you're doing. But I think when you want to put that time and effort and energy and that care into really getting into the nitty-gritty of how to kind of improve at the game and play the game and really kind of try to grind for Overwatch 2, it's really, really difficult to do that without a competitive ladder. I don't know what the plans are for Overwatch 2's next beta, if it's going to be the, continuous beta that they roll for a long time until they eventually kind of shut it down for the full release, or if they're going to do another thing where it's on for 3 weeks and then they turn it off again and then do it all again. I don't really know, but I think what they need to do is add a competitive season for this next beta. I think there needs to be a competitive mode. There needs to be a queue that you can get into to actually play the game, where you can play offense and defense in a match, and you can play offense and defense in a single map. I just think they need to add that. I think competitive is such a huge part of the game. It's a huge part of the player base. It's a huge part of what makes people interested in playing. And I think they really dropped the ball in the first beta by not having a competitive queue. I think you cannot get away with doing that this time around. You cannot do that. You need to have a competitive queue for this next beta. That, to me, is the biggest thing that was missing in the first beta that really kind of drove a number of players away. That they just felt like there was nothing going on that kind of made them want to play because it was just playing. And I think in the first beta, that you can kind of get away with that. You can just kind of say you just want people to play and you want to get an idea of what the game is doing, where it's at right now. But you need, I believe, a competitive queue for the next beta. Those are my thoughts on the things that I really want to see. Those are the 6 things I want to most see. Some of them definitely more pressing in my opinion than others, but I think they're all things I would like to see added as we move on to the second beta for Overwatch 2. We'll see what of those get added, if any of them, when we get to June 16th. Then we get the announcements for the future. But for now, that is all I have. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this in the future. Comment down below what things you hope to see in the next Overwatch 2 beta. But that's going to be all for me for today. Thank you all so much. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.